Aloha, good afternoon, and thanks for tuning in to This Is Now. First at noon, Hawaiian Electric has restored power to thousands of customers in East Honolulu after a major outage this morning.
About 500 customers are still in the dark, but crews continue to work on repairs. Now, the outage impacted more than 20,000 customers from Ainahaina to Waimanalo. Hiko said it was due to minor damage to the system, and it's not the Public Safety Power Shutoff Program, which is aimed at preventing wildfires. We're going to have more updates on this story as they become available. Meanwhile, to the campaign, Vice President Kamala Harris is in the battleground state of Georgia today as speculation intensifies about who she will pick as her running mate. She's expected to make her choice in the next week. Sources then say the two will travel together on a battleground state tour. Natalie Brand reports from Washington.
With just about 3 months to Election Day, both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump hit the campaign trail over the weekend.
We are going to win.
You're going to be crushed if you don't elect me.
It comes as a new poll shows that Harris has a higher favorability among voters than Trump, barely a week after she entered the race. The Harris campaign says it brought in $200 million in the first week of her candidacy. That's a new record. They're also touting signing up more than 170,000 new volunteers.
We are seeing on the ground a lot of enthusiasm and excitement.
Trump stepped up his attacks on Harris.
I'm running against a low IQ individual.
Kamala Harris's deadly destruction of America's borders is completely and totally disqualifying for her to be president.
Harris had this response.
Donald Trump has been resorting to some wild lies about my record, and some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
Trump also stirred up some back and forth with this unusual plea to Christian conservatives Saturday.
Christians, get out and vote. Just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore.
Republicans scrambled to explain.
I think he's obviously making a joke about how bad things have been under Joe Biden.
But the Harris campaign said Trump was signaling an end to democracy. Nicole Skanga, CBS News, Washington.
President Biden has unveiled a trio of proposals that would change the way the U.S. Supreme Court works, including who can sit on the bench and for how long. Skylar Henry has more details from the White House.
President Biden unveiled plans Monday to dramatically change the way the Supreme Court operates. Biden is calling for stripping away lifetime appointments and enacting an 18-year term limit for the justices. That would set up a system where new justice would be needed every 2 years.
They have no desire to make the court better. They're just trying to make it more liberal.
President Biden also wants Congress to pass a tough new code of ethics requiring the disclosure of all major gifts and the justices to recuse themselves if they or their families are involved in the case.
The idea that wealthy individuals, many of them right-wing, can both pay for cases before the court and at the same time give justices gifts or trips is outrageous.
Neither proposal currently stands any chance of passing the Republican-controlled House or narrowly divided Senate.
The liberals in this country want to pack the court. They want to destroy the court. So their initiatives coming from Biden will be dead on arrival in the Senate.
President Biden is also calling on Congress.
All right, we want to give you our apologies. We have some technical difficulties that we're working out. We're going to try and re-rack and give you the right Kamala Harris package in just a few minutes. But we want to remind you that coming up after This Is Now, we will be having Spotlight Now, which will feature today Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke. She will be talking about her Keiki Ready program and all the initiatives they're doing with the preschool. All right, now we have the right Natalie Brand package from Washington.
Vice President Harris has been battle-tested.
Considered a top contender to be Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is auditioning while campaigning in his home state against former President Donald Trump.
The chaos that he injected into our lives, we don't want to go back to that, gang. We don't want to go back to that.
Also in the running, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, a former Navy combat pilot and astronaut. as well as Michigan Senator Gary Peters, a favorite of organized labor. The VP prospects representing key battleground states.
Vice President Harris has a lot of great candidates to look at, and we respect the process.
Monday, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper crossed himself off the list, partly out of concern with internal politics in his state. The Harris campaign has said she's looking for someone with the experience to step into the job and be effective on day one.
They are creating an anti-family and anti-child society.
Former President Trump defended his own VP pick, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, Monday for his past controversial comments about people without children.
He's not against anything, but he loves family.
Trump is set to return to the battleground state of Pennsylvania Wednesday for the first time since the attempted assassination earlier this month. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Washington.
Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe was called to Capitol Hill to answer questions about the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. Some new evidence has come to light during the Senate hearing, but still many questions remain. Skylar Henry has the details.
Senators grilled Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe for several hours in an at times contentious hearing about security failures leading up to the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump.
What more do you need to investigate to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable?
I acknowledge this was a failure of the Secret Service.
Is it not prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days, just like you have.
Somebody.
FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate testified local police had been following the suspicious person, later identified as gunman Thomas Crooks, for up to 90 minutes prior to the shooting, and spotted him again on a rooftop with a gun 30 seconds before he opened fire.
If we'd had that information, they would have been able to address it more quickly. It appears that that information was stuck or siloed in that state and local channel.
While the shooter's motive remains unknown, the FBI says it found a social media account that belonged to Crooks that included comments that were anti-Semitic, anti-immigration, and called for political violence.
If it is in fact the shooter that posted these comments, it's the first real indication where he's expressing what are described as extremist views and talking about political violence.
Some Republican senators pushed the Secret Service head about reports the agency turned down protection requests from the Trump campaign.
I believe that the Secret Service leadership made a political decision to deny these requests.
Senator, what I will tell you is that Secret Service agents are not political.
Okay, you're not answering my question. But you know what? Leadership appointed by the president. Leadership appointed by the president is political.
The Senate committees say they have more questions and want to talk to agents who were on the ground the day of the shooting. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The director of Project 2025 has stepped down. That's the controversial plan devised by the Heritage Foundation to guide a second Donald Trump presidency. It's become a political football, with Democrats linking its right-wing overhauls directly to the former president. Trump has worked to distance himself from Project 2025, saying, quote, "I have no idea who is behind it." That could be difficult to believe entirely because the director who stepped down is Paul Dance. He served as a top official in Trump's White House. A review found at least 140 people who worked in the Trump administration also contributed to the project. Trump's team on Tuesday continued to slam the conservative playbook effort, saying reports of its demise would be, quote, "greatly welcomed." Back here at home, a 39-year-old man is recovering after he was found stabbed late last night in the Makiki area. EMS crews were called to Kinau and Makiki streets at around 10:15. We're told they gave the man advanced trauma care before rushing him to the hospital in serious condition. It's not yet clear what led up to the stabbing or if any suspects are on the run. We'll let you know more information when we get it. $1 million, that's the bail amount given to a 43-year-old man charged with assaulting an HPD officer in Manoa. Savan Tuazon, seen here from an arrest back in 2017 on Kauai, is charged with several offenses, including assault on a law enforcement officer and criminal property damage. Police say Tuazon was already wanted for stealing a vehicle. When police officers tried to pull him over Sunday morning, he allegedly accelerated, sideswiped a parked car, drove through a gate, then crashed into a garage. The officer hurt during the incident was also taken to a hospital, but is expected to be okay. 19-year-old Laksh Maker has been charged with attempted murder for allegedly stabbing a 16-year-old boy in Mililani. HPD and EMS responded to Lanipa'a Street just before 3 p.m. Saturday afternoon. EMS says the victim suffered multiple stab wounds and was rushed to the hospital in serious condition. It's not clear what led up to that stabbing or if Maker knew the victim. His bail has been set at $750,000. And a parent's worst nightmare allegedly played out over the weekend in Kahala. A 23-year-old man has been charged with kidnapping after he allegedly followed a 10-year-old girl into a public restroom Saturday morning. Police say she was changing when he entered and he wouldn't let her leave. The man was arrested a short time later. His bail has been set at $30,000.
Using DNA, Hawaii County Police have identified a new suspect in the rape and murder of Dana Ireland nearly 33 years ago. Investigators say they identified the alleged killer months ago, but he will not face trial because he took his own life last week. Chief investigative reporter Lynn Kawano broke the story and has the latest developments.
Albert Laurel Jr. spoke to police earlier this month. 4 days later, he killed himself. There will be a hearing Tuesday here at the Hilo Courthouse to discuss recordings from that interview. Hawaii Police Chief Ben Moskowitz defended the July 19 decision to release Albert Laurel Jr. after DNA tests confirmed he was a match to Dana Ireland's attacker.
Someone's DNA at a crime scene 33 years ago with very, very, very little other evidence is not, in our opinion, probable cause for an arrest of murder. We had to prove, again, all the elements of murder.
Ireland was kidnapped, raped, and found critically injured in 1991 along a remote fishing trail. She died the next day of blood loss. Laurel, a Hawaiian Paradise Park resident, lived near the trail at the time of the crime. Pictures of him in court documents show he was an avid fisherman and would have been familiar with the area. Genetic DNA, then DNA from a discarded fork, connected him to the crime. Police then got a search warrant to get a cheek swab from Laurel.
They talked with him for about an hour, all told, from the beginning to including the buccal swab in the end. We're not really ready to release the contents of the interview or the recording of the interview or a transcript yet because we're still trying to actively work through what he told us to prove or disprove and to complete the investigation, right?
3 men were convicted of the murder in 2000. 2 of them had the convictions vacated and are expected to be declared innocent by a judge. The Hawaii Innocence Project represented Albert Ian Schweitzer and Sean Schweitzer. The agency disputes the chief's claim that there wasn't probable cause to arrest Laurel, saying their clients were arrested and convicted with much less evidence. There was no DNA match.
He was just waiting and hoping not to get caught. Now you show up, you swab him for the DNA, he knows it's going to be a match, and you leave him? That's not accidental, that's not reckless.
The issues over the wrongful convictions and the recordings from the interview with Laurel will all be handled Tuesday in court. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
The Israeli military today said it carried out an airstrike in a suburb of southern Beirut, targeting a commander they say was in charge of an attack that killed 12 young people last week. Matt Bradley has the latest.
Well, this is the moment that the entire region had been waiting for with dread. The Israelis have said that they struck a building in the southern neighborhood of Lebanon's capital of Beirut, where I'm standing right now. This neighborhood of Dahia has long been a stronghold for Hezbollah, which is an Iran-backed group, like Hamas, backed by Iran, that has been striking Israel regularly for the past 10 months, ever since that October 7th Hamas terror attack started this latest round of conflict. Now, the Israelis say that Hezbollah is to blame for a strike against a soccer field in the northern part of Israel, or an area that's occupied by the Israelis, that killed 12 children. This was their retaliation. They've said this publicly. They said that they were targeting one man in specific, but we don't know exactly the identity of that person. But so far, health authorities at Bahman Hospital here in Beirut, near the neighborhood of Dahia, say that they've already taken in 17 people who were wounded. 6 of them are children. Now, some of those cases are critical cases, and we're probably going to see those numbers increasing. You can see now the devastation that this attack has wrought on this southern neighborhood of Beirut. Now, the question remains whether or not this is Israel's last attack, whether this is the retribution, whether they're satisfied, or how or whether Hezbollah will decide to retaliate. Now, Lebanon's foreign minister has told Reuters that this is a violation of their sovereignty. They plan to file a protest against Israel with the United Nations, but we can likely expect more from Hezbollah itself. They're probably going to have more to say on this issue. And if Israel decides they're going to retaliate against that or continue their retaliation now, we could be seeing the beginnings of a region-wide war.
All right, let's take a live look outside. This is Atlanta. The temperature there, 89 degrees on this Aloha Tuesday. Guy's going to have a check on your forecast here at home after this quick break.
We're wrapping up the second month of hurricane season. It's still very quiet here in the Central Pacific. However, in the East Pacific, we're tracking a possible cyclone. High chance for this to become the next tropical cyclone over the next day or so. We'll keep an eye on it. If it becomes a tropical storm, it'll be named Carlotta. Now, this morning, we're seeing some cloudy skies with a few scattered showers. Rain is moving along quickly, so rainfall totals will be light. Flooding not an issue. And also, because of these winds, the rain's moving along quickly. That really limits the rainfall buildups. Now, we're not going to see a whole lot of rain over the next several days. If anything, a few windward and Mauka showers early and in the overnight hours. And that's just what we have this morning, mainly windward and Mauka. We have a fair bit of cloud cover as well from a disturbance down to the west. But of course, we're still not going to see much in the way of rainfall because those high clouds don't bring in any rain. Surf's going to remain rather small. Heads up, box jellyfish swimming into south shores. And the east shore is still elevated at 2 to 4. And the next south shore swell is due in sometime tomorrow night in through Thursday. So we've got trade winds steady today, lightening up by tomorrow. We'll see more sunshine as well. And these light trade winds will hold firm and hold light all the way through Saturday. Stronger trade winds due in on Sunday.
On the next Spotlight now, we focus in on early education and infrastructure.
That's right. Sylvia Luke will be here. The Lieutenant Governor will be talking about her initiative with Preschool Open Doors and also how she's leading the charge to get broadband throughout the islands. Watch Spotlight now, 1 o'clock on K5.
Women's wrestling has only been an Olympic sport since 2004, and in that time, Oahu native Clarissa Chun has been a part of the foundation for Team USA. 16 years after making her Olympics debut, Chun is helping pave the way for future Olympians. Mark Carpenter has her story.
When stepping up to the biggest stage in international sports, Clarissa Chun understood full well the Olympics are just as much of a mental grind as it is physical.
It is
so much energy going on around you and so exciting, such a great experience to want to soak it all in, but yet like do everything all at once, and you don't want to miss out, but at the same time, you know, like knowing yourself enough to know when to shut it off, when to dial in, when to focus, and you know where you're putting your energy into.
Discipline and composure evident at an early age. Chun graduated from Roosevelt in 1999 as one of the state's first girls wrestling champions. Then it was on to the national circuit, training with Team USA, competing in 5 senior world championships, and winning 5 U.S. Open titles. Her first Olympics, 2008 in Beijing, and 4 years later in London, where she won bronze. Each game's its own distinct journey.
Making the team in 12, I felt very tight. Like I didn't want to lose that spot, even though I didn't have that spot, right? Whereas 2008, it was finally a belief in myself that why not me? You know, I've put in the work and I've always put the person ahead of me on a pedestal.
And years later, Chun is someone young wrestlers look up to. After competing, she got into coaching, and in 2021 became the first head coach of the Iowa women's wrestling program. And if you didn't know, that state takes its wrestling seriously.
You could order t-shirts that say things like boys play basketball, girls play volleyball, and men wrestle type of thing. You know, like, so it's kind of like that mentality of wrestling is only for boys or men, you know, especially when it's like rooted into their culture of their state.
A culture that Chun is influencing to show that women also have a place on the mat. Her Hawkeyes program was the first NCAA Power 5 program to offer the sport, and only a handful of Division I schools have women's wrestling. She also sees an opportunity to provide a place for local talent.
I would love a nice pipeline from Hawaii to Iowa, because I love that, you know, like make me feel a little closer to home. But I don't know if I'm doing that like Misery Loves Company, like come to the code, come to Iowa.
And who wouldn't follow her? In 2022, Chun was inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and is also a Hawaii Sports Hall of Famer. But what's most gratifying? Seeing continued growth and interest in the sport.
Over 50,000 girls have a USA Wrestling membership across the country, which is astronomical, you know, it's huge. And thinking back, you know, to Hawaii states, you know, I think, you know, when I was like started, it was probably less than 200.
A surge in popularity, and Chun is right there guiding the next wave of champions.
And joining us now in the H&N Digital Center is our very own Mark Carpenter. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's jump right into the Olympic. The big headlines of the day. What you got for us?
Oh, so much to look forward to in tonight's prime time coverage. Of course, these events have already aired earlier on KHNL, but the big highlight of the day so far, Team USA's women's gymnastics team back on top once again. Their redemption tour, really something else. Simone Biles just fantastic in the floor exercises. This is their 3rd gold medal in the past 4 games. Biles has won her 8th career Olympic medal, the most all-time for an American gymnast. So, Dylan, you know, so much anticipation, so much excitement for this team, and to see them really put it all together on this stage once again, it really is amazing to see.
I love to see it, and that's not the only big headline out of Paris.
Yes, no surfing competition scheduled for today. So, of course, yesterday, John Florence eliminated in the 3rd round against Australian Jack Robinson, just short of the quarterfinals of qualifying there. So, kind of a letdown for the world number 1 Florence. Carissa Moore was scheduled to go today. The women's competition would be in round 3, approaching the quarterfinals, but we'll see when competition is going to be back on at Te Ahu Po'o as conditions are not cooperating right now.
Mm-hmm. And we also understand there's basketball that's also happening. I tuned in to a little bit of that as well.
So much to enjoy with basketball right now. So Team Japan, the men's team taking on host nation France. Of course, 2 Hawaii Olympians on Team Japan, UH Ford, Akira Jacobs, Iolani grad Hugh Watanabe. And Japan nearly pulled off the upset against the host nation today, forced overtime overtime against France, but rookie sensation, the NBA phenom Victor Wembanyama, helped France hold off and seal the victory. So a bit of excitement going on with what we've been seeing in basketball. And we also want to mention the Team USA men's national volleyball team, 4 Hawaii Olympians on that roster, played Germany yesterday in pool play, as pool play is still going on. Wow, we nearly got an upset, and this would have been some bad news. Team USA took the first 2 sets. Germany stormed back, get this, Dylan, to force a decisive 5th set. Thankfully, the Americans held on, so they're going to be moving on. They play Japan on Friday.
Wow, cutting it close there, Team USA. Well, Mark Carpenter, thank you so much. Yep. And while we're here, let's take a look at your medal count. Right now, the United States has the most medals with 26. Team USA is in 6th place, however, with those medals, 4 of them being gold, 11 silver, and 11 bronze. Japan is ranked in 1st with 7 gold, 13 medals overall. China follows in 2nd with 14, followed by Australia with 11, France with 18, and Korea with 11. Remember, Hawaii News Now is your Olympic news station. Be sure to tune into our later newscast for more coverage from Paris.